What's up, guys? It's Dan from Coin Bureau Trading, back at it again with another crypto market update. Today we've got XRP, Stellar, and Hedera. I'm sure you're all wondering what these cryptos are up to, especially with the little crash we had yesterday with the Liberation Day tariffs and all that stuff. I'm sure you're all wondering how much lower these cryptos are going to go. When are they going to recover? How high could they go? If this is the kind of content that you enjoy, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ping that notification bell. Before we get started, do keep in mind that nothing in this video is financial advice. It's just my personal analysis of these cryptos. Your analysis could be different, and if it is, that's awesome, because the more difference of opinion that we have, the better traders and the better investors we're all going to become. With that being said, guys, I want to start by looking at something that nobody is paying attention to. I always try and look for this type of stuff, try and look for this kind of alpha. This is the market cap of Ripple's RLUSD stablecoin, and as you can see, it's been going parabolic over the last couple of weeks. It's now sitting around, well, basically at 300 million market cap, which is super fascinating, right? Like, why is the supply of RLUSD growing so much? I'm sure some of you will say, oh, they're doing this cross-border payment stuff that was just announced yesterday or whatever. Okay, I will grant you that, but then why is the supply of RLUSD growing primarily on Ethereum? Most of that supply is on Ethereum. $200 million worth of RLUSD is on Ethereum, and the number of holders has been slowly but steadily climbing. So this begs a question: why is that happening? In my mind, guys, there's only one answer, and that's the XRPL EVM sidechain. Of course, for those of you who aren't up to speed, XRP, or rather, I guess Ripple, or just the entities behind XRP, are in the process of launching an EVM-compatible sidechain that's actually going to be based on Cosmos, which is pretty cool. But the key thing, of course, guys, is that when you have an EVM sidechain, you're going to want to make sure that there's lots of liquidity on other EVM chains that is going to be connecting to, the biggest one obviously being Ethereum, right? So what I think is happening here, guys, is I do think that the supply of RLUSD on Ethereum is growing here in preparation for the launch of the XRPL EVM sidechain. And the reason I believe that, guys, is because a couple of days ago here, we actually got news that basically that the testnet for this EVM sidechain just launched like a couple days ago. So that means that the mainnet is going to be coming very soon here. And I do think that this is why RLUSD supply has been growing. And this is something I've been saying now, I think probably for a couple of months now. But I think that the XRPL EVM sidechain is going to be insanely bullish for XRP, and especially for altcoins in XRP's ecosystem. Why is that? Because you have so many people that are holding XRP, and I'm sure many of you who are watching this, that you hold a large amount of XRP, but you can't really do anything with it. And by you can't do anything with it, I mean that you're not able to use it as collateral to borrow, right? I'm sure there's many of you out there that's like, look, whether it's for tax reasons or whatever, I would prefer to borrow against my XRP holdings rather than have to sell them. And there's a lot of people out there who have a lot of XRP who would like to do that. And once this XRPL EVM sidechain launches, all these XRP whales, you don't have to be a whale to be able to do this, but large holders of XRP who don't want to sell will be able to borrow against their XRP, and they'll be able to borrow presumably RLUSD. And then what do you think they're going to do with that money? They'll either buy more XRP, or they'll buy altcoins in XRP's ecosystem, or altcoins, on other blockchains that they find interesting, right? I know Corium is one in XRP's ecosystem that's also based on Cosmos. And, with XRPL being based on Cosmos, it's going to be very easy for that liquidity to move not only into EVM chains, but into Cosmos's ecosystem. And I do think that this is one catalyst that could result in a lot of capital flowing into Cosmos-based cryptocurrencies. Super fascinating stuff, at least on my end. I do hope you find that interesting. I definitely do. But of course, this brings us to the XRP chart, which in the short term isn't looking too hot, but nothing out of the ordinary. If we zoom out here, guys, XRP has literally just been chopping for 2 months in a range here. But of course, we're zoomed in now, guys, on the 4-hour with the Bollinger Bands indicator added. Of course, if you've been keeping up with my recent videos, you'll know that this week I really want to focus on the Bollinger Bands to show you guys exactly how I use them and why they're such a useful tool. So first things first, we can see that like many other cryptos we've covered in the last couple of days, XRP is just squeezing in a range here. When a crypto's price is chopping in a range, the Bollinger Bands, like these outer bands, will basically squeeze. And that tells you that we're about to see a big move to the upside or to the downside. And of course, we saw a fake out to the upside. We could be seeing a fake out to the downside. We've seen a couple fake outs actually over the last couple of weeks here. And eventually, we're going to see a break up or a break down. And of course, that begs the question of how high XRP could go or how low it could go in either scenario, right? So in terms of how high XRP could go, assuming it does get above this Bollinger Band moving average on the 4-hour, which is around $2.1, the next level to watch would be around $2.3, which would be around a 10% gain, which is not too shabby at all. Of course, it's a little cheeky trade or whatever, but of course, you would need to see confirmation above the Bollinger Band moving average on the 4-hour first, and even then, it's possible that we would see a rejection at this $2.3 level. But if XRP does get above that level, then the next one to watch, of course, is the Bollinger Band moving average on the weekly, which is up around $2.4. And this is where we can start to get a little bit more perspective. So, of course, as you can see, guys, this Bollinger Band moving average on the weekly kind of marks like a midterm, let's say, trend for XRP. So when XRP is above, it's in a bullish zone. When it's below, it's in a bearish zone. Of course, we're only a couple of days into the week, so I wouldn't panic too much about this candle just yet. Ideally, XRP would close up closer to this Bollinger Band moving average on the weekly. So long as it's roughly within range, that's fine. If it was to see a major breakdown below this level, which of course around $2 is a key psychological level as well, but if XRP was to see a major breakdown, let's say below $2, then that would be reason to start being a little bit concerned in the short term. In terms of being concerned in the long term, believe it or not, guys, but so long as XRP holds above the Bollinger Band moving average on the monthly, which is around $1, if it was to hold above that level, then it is still technically in a bull market and it still could rally much higher. And I know that would be a very painful drop of around 40 or 50%. It's not my base case. I don't think that's going to happen. I do think that this $2 level will hold. But in case it doesn't, then the next one to watch, unfortunately, you have to look out below down to around $1. And I do think in the longer term, guys, though, I've been saying this for a while now, I do think XRP is going to hit at least $5. Maybe it'll wick up to like $6 or $7 or something temporarily. But based just purely on just very simple, basic technical analysis, it would go to something around like, I don't know, $5.5. And it's a level that would probably just be touched quickly. It's not, it's not going to be hanging around there for you to take profits. It would probably wick up into that zone, maybe for a couple days, even for a couple hours before dropping. But I do think that XRP is going to hit that all-time high sometime over the summer. But of course, we'll have to take things one step at a time, starting all the way down here from the 4-hour. First level to watch, $2.1. Second level to watch, $2.3. Third level to watch, $2.4. And once XRP has cleared those three levels, then we can start talking about new all-time highs. Anyways, guys, in case you didn't notice, we were using Binance there. The Coin Bureau has a 20% trading fee discount with up to $600 in bonuses. That's the biggest discount you can get on Binance. Of course, Binance is the biggest crypto exchange. They have all the altcoins you need. They have XRP and everything. We get basically a cut of those trading fees. You get a trading fee discount and the exchange gets a new user. That's how we make money, plus the Coin Bureau Club and other products that we offer. We also have deals on other exchanges and wallets if you're interested. But to take advantage of that Binance deal, guys, it's super simple. Just click the link and all you have to do is enter your email or phone number. Signing up literally takes 2 or 3 minutes. It's very quick, very seamless. The link is down in the description. These deals are completely free. They don't cost you a thing. You don't have to use the exchange. There's no fees associated with signing up or anything. So do take advantage of that deal using the link down in the description. Anyways, guys, moving on to Stellar. This is a similar story to basically to XRP. So as you can see, guys, I'm looking at DeFi Llama and I'm looking specifically at the total stablecoin supply on Stellar. And as you can see, guys, this stablecoin supply has been growing quite quickly over the last couple of months here, and it continues to move higher. And I do think that this is in anticipation. I guess you could potentially, it's a similar case with RLUSD, but I do think that we're seeing the stablecoin supply grow, not just on Stellar, not just on XRP, but on many blockchains in preparation for a stablecoin bill being passed. Word on the street is that a stablecoin bill will be passed potentially by the end of this month, most likely sometime next month. I think I was mentioning yesterday or the day before that the Trump administration is shooting to have stablecoin regulations passed within the first 100 days, which would be by the end of this month, specifically April 29th. But with that being said, guys, of course, there is a bill in the Senate which recently passed the committee and still needs to go on a vote like in the Senate more broadly. And we do have the U.S. House now passing a bill through the committee. So this will also be going live who knows when they're going to vote on it. But basically, the House will need to vote on this bill. And then if the House approves, then it goes to the Senate. And similarly, once the Senate approves their bill, it'll go to the House and there'll be a little bit of back and forth. That could take a couple of weeks. But the point being is that stablecoin regulations are coming. You can see the stablecoin supply growing on Stellar. Again, it's not just Stellar, it's also XRP. It's also, most of the major blockchains for that matter. You can see the stablecoin supply is growing, and it looks like everyone is getting ready for these stablecoin regulations to be passed. And Stellar is one crypto I think that's going to benefit a lot from that, especially given its connections to traditional financial institutions. So of course that brings me here, guys, to the XLM chart starting from the 4-hour. Similar idea, I guess, again to all the other cryptos we've been covering. XLM has basically been chopping now, guys, for like I don't know, a month, 2 months. Of course, it's been grinding a little bit lower than XRP, but more or less it's just been slowly grinding, slowly chopping in this range here, and we can see that similarly to XRP, similarly to many other cryptos, XLM is currently kind of squeezing. It saw a little bit of a fake out to the upside, now seeing maybe a fake out to the downside. Regardless, the first level to watch will be the Bollinger Band moving average on the 4-hour, which is around 26 cents. It'll probably be hit potentially by the time you see this video. And if it does get hit and we do get above that level, the next level to watch is the Bollinger Band moving average on the daily, which is around 27 cents, a little bit higher, around 5% higher. But of course, the main one to watch for will be the Bollinger Band moving average on the weekly, around 37 cents. And I do think that XLM will see a retest of this level at some point. This is something I was mentioning yesterday, is that most of these cryptos that are kind of struggling, they need to at least they don't need to, but it would be typical for them to retest that level before deciding, okay, are they going to recover or are they going to keep rolling over? Like nothing goes down only, just like nothing goes up only. Whenever you see a move up, you tend to see a retest of that resistance level, and when you see a move down, you see a retest of that resistance level. Is XLM really going to get rejected and keep falling lower, or will it get back above that level and continue grinding higher in the next few weeks? And of course, as you guys will know, this whole time that we've been grinding down, I've been saying it's only a matter of time before we see a reversal to the upside, and I do think that we're going to see some nice all-time highs over the summer. But before we get too excited, let's just put things into perspective how far XLM could fall. If it was to go any lower, then it could fall as low as around 18 cents, which is the Bollinger Band moving average on the monthly. But so long as XLM is above that level, I would not be concerned at all. You can see that like many other cryptos, the Bollinger Band moving average on the monthly has served quite well as a zone to tell you when XLM is in a bull market versus a bear market. When it's above that level, it's in a bull market. When it's below, it's in a bear market. And you could make the case that XLM is quite clearly in a bull market here. Yes, it's been a few months of downwards price action, but all things considered, XLM is still in a bullish phase, and I do believe that there's another leg higher waiting for XLM. Exactly how high it will go, I'm not sure, but I imagine $1 is that key psychological level that everyone is watching and that they've been watching since the previous crypto bull market. So expect to see a lot of profit taking around that level, which would be, roughly a 4x from the current price. Not too shabby for a large cap, to say the least. Anyways, guys, moving on now to HBAR, which is by far the most exciting of the three today. Of course, many of you will know that I'm like an HBAR fanboy or anything like that, but I do think that it has the most potential of these three cryptos in terms of percentage returns. And this is now, I guess, being put on full display here with the HBAR Foundation reportedly joining OnlyFans founder to basically to bid on TikTok. If you watched yesterday's video, you'll know that this TikTok bid, it seems that the deadline for these bids is this Saturday, and then potentially they're going to announce who's going to buy TikTok. There's a lot of hats in the ring there. I think Amazon threw their hat in the ring. Trump said that Microsoft was bidding on them. And all this different stuff. So we'll have to wait and see. I personally don't think that HBAR is going to win the bid just because, come on, like HBAR Foundation versus Amazon, who do you think has more money? Again, like no hate towards HBAR, but it's just a fact. It's like they're up against some pretty serious players here. But on the off chance that HBAR was to get TikTok, I think that would be pretty nuts and it will result in a pretty big rally. But, let's take things one step at a time here, guys. And just starting from the 4-hour, again, same like all the other cryptos, HBAR's just kind of been grinding and chopping here for the last couple of days, sort of not squeezing as much as other cryptos, but preparing for a move in some direction. It's basically the Bollinger Band moving average as we speak, around 16 cents. And if we zoom out to the daily, we can see that the next level to tag would be around 18 cents, around a 10% gain from here. If we do see a bounce, if it manages to get above the Bollinger Band moving average on the daily, the next level to watch would be the Bollinger Band moving average on the weekly, which is around 24 cents, which would be a cheeky 50% gain from the current price. Again, I do believe that HBAR and many other large cap cryptos cryptos will at least retest this level before rolling over or before recovering and moving higher. And as I said yesterday, I think when we see a retest of this level, many people will say that, oh, it's just a dead cat bounce or whatever. But I think we're just going to have to, reserve judgment and say, okay, when we zoom out to the monthly, though, we can see that HBAR is clearly in a bullish trend. The same is true for most large cap altcoins. So when we see a move up to this Bollinger Band moving average on the weekly, sure, maybe there'll be a little bit of a rejection in the short term, which would be completely normal because nothing goes up only. It hits that level, gets a little bit of a rejection, and then we see, does it keep rolling over or does it start moving higher to new all-time highs? And again, the Bollinger Band moving average shows us that HBAR is in a bullish trend here and has been for the last 6 months or so. So I do think that in this case, that HBAR would continue moving higher. It's doing that 3 stars in the south, that pattern here that we talked about yesterday. And I do think that that just like Stellar, HBAR's cycle top would probably be somewhere close to $1. I imagine that's a level that a lot of people are watching. And of course, that would be what, I think like a 5 or 6x from the current level. Or maybe even closer to 7x, depending on when you see this video, which of course in percentage terms would be larger than XRP, larger. In XRP's case, it would be maybe a 2 to 3x. For XLM, it would be maybe around a 4x. And then of course in HBAR's case, you're looking at a 6 to 7x potentially, no guarantees there. But I do think that these are all-time highs that will be hit sometime over the summer, specifically between May and September. Anyways, guys, if you did make it this far, I do hope you found that information helpful. And if you did, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, ping that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.